We have some very sad news to report today about the loss of three true American heroes. Daniel Hegland, Howard Bischoff, and Robert Lever were three tremendously courageous 9/11 first responders who passed away last week, all on the same day from cancer. Very scary situation. Daniel Hegland spent 21 years with the department. Lever spent 20, and Bischoff was a 19-year veteran. All three of them retired in 2003. And Lever and Bischoff were actually longtime friends as well. Addicting Info reports on this, quote, "Rescue workers spent hours, days, even months without rest, sorting through rubble and dust, exposing themselves to all kinds of physical dangers. According to the city's Department of Mental and Physical Hygiene, thousands of individuals, including rescue, recovery, and cleanup workers, and people who lived, worked, or went to school in Lower Manhattan on September 11th, have developed chronic and often co-occurring mental and physical health conditions." So a lot of people are unaware of this, but it's an epidemic of first responders and people who lived in the area who have developed debilitating diseases and chronic problems. One of the things that I keep coming across in articles about this, it's like Gulf War-like symptoms. Okay, constant fever, shakes, you're hot and cold at the same time, headaches, vomiting, debilitating pain. And remember, Congress at first blocked a bill which would pay for all of the health care costs of these heroes. You know what it took in order to get that bill through? I'm not kidding about this. It took Jon Stewart covering the story. If I'm not mistaken, I think he covered it for a few days straight, maybe a week straight, and just sat down and did interviews with people like the husbands or the wives of the people who were down in the area and a lot of the first responders. And they basically described, like, yeah, it's been hell. We can't get our medical bills paid. We don't have insurance for reason X, Y, and Z, and the government's not helping us. They're just not picking up the slack. In fact, I remember in Michael Moore's documentary Sicko about the healthcare system, he literally took some 9/11 first responders to Cuba to try to get them health care over there because they weren't getting it here. So it took Jon Stewart doing that show, and then, and all credit to them, this may be the first time in secular talk history I'm going to give credit to them, but credit to Fox News, because after Jon Stewart covered it, then Fox News picked it up. I think it was Shep Smith who picked it up, who's the most reasonable guy on Fox News, and he hammered away on it for a while, and then eventually that got Congress to resurrect the bill, and then they passed it. Now, here's the sad reality. Is it possible that maybe some lives could have been saved if they all had coverage sooner and we could have tried to nip it in the bud? It's certainly possible. I'm not a doctor. I don't know for sure, but here's what I do know from a common sense perspective. The heroes who were down there, the first responders for 9/11, should have never had to wait for any health care ever. Ever. They served their country, and their country's going to sit there while they cough and choke and die slowly and painfully. It's a situation that there's simply no excuse for. And of all the stories we've covered on Secular Talk, this is definitely one of the most important ones we've ever covered, because these three men are heroes, and it would be a tragedy if people do not remember their names, because they did their duty. They did their part for America. Okay? Do you have any idea what it takes to do what they did? I try to put myself in their shoes. I can't. I'm a pussy. I'll admit it. I'm a little bitch. You know, you're supposed to go down to a place where buildings just collapse, where one building just collapsed or both buildings just collapsed after a terrorist attack. You have no clue how dangerous that is, what can happen, what you're going to see, the PTSD you're almost guaranteed to get. Now we learn the physical problems too. And could you imagine how people felt when they're in the rubble, hanging on to life by a thread, and they see somebody wearing that fireman's outfit? or the police officer's outfit, and they help them, and they save their lives. Could you imagine the relief you feel when you look up and you see the first responders digging through the rubble to save your fucking life? And then after that happens, when they get sick, the government drags their feet before they pick up the tab for their health care. It doesn't make any sense. We should have universal health care for all. Especially, it should have never been a question for the heroes, the first responders. They should have had health care from day one, no questions asked, whatever they need. If you polled that issue with the American people, it would be 100% of the American people that say, yes, help them in any way possible. In any way possible. You want to talk about a problem? It's very rarely a good idea to throw money at a problem. Here's a situation where I would have voted in favor of throwing money at it, okay? If all those first responders are sick and hey, we want $1 million each. Here, have $2. It's sick that these guys weren't taken care of in the best way possible. So yet again, these are American heroes. They all died on the same day from cancer, which likely came about because they were first responders and they inhaled so many disgusting things and so many carcinogens, and they risked their lives to save people's lives. So these guys are heroes. Remember their name. I mean that. Remember their name. Daniel Hegland, Howard Bischoff, and Robert Lever. Thank you, and rest in peace.